Well, welcome to anyone who is watching. Hopefully you can hopefully you can hear me okay. Excuse my annoying cough. One advantage of of actually making a film, I can edit that cough out. But anyway, we'll give it a couple of minutes. We'll see whether anybody pops on. I'll also have a little nose in the background. Excuse the slight mess in the background. You're just going to have to look past that. Post a message or a comment just to let me know that you can, hear me would be useful. I've got the old microphone going, so hopefully that is coming through loud and clear. And let's just see what we've got up here. It's certainly showing me. Okay. All right, so we got one or two of you, and we don't very often get many more than one or two of you anyway. So I think what I do is I basically start off with another little story. I'm going to run out of stories soon, so I'll probably have to sort of either think of something else to talk about or post a comment or something like that with some questions and get you to sort of post some questions, and then I can answer questions or something like that in the future when I start to run out of things to talk about. But for now, what I will do is I've written down a couple of notes, well, very basic notes, 3 words, 3 mountains in the Lake District. And I'll take you back to 2004. And that was just after I'd got married to my now late wife, Sue, and we went on a honeymoon down to, or up to, the Lake District. And part of that trip was hiking in the mountains. So we planned on 3 or 4 big walks. We were planning on doing Scarfell Pike, and that's the only one that we didn't do because it was kind of, we'd had so much fun with Blencathra, Helvellyn and Great Gable that we kind of thought that 3 big mountains was probably, we kind of like pushed our luck enough with those 3, and they were pretty tiring as well to be doing, within 3, all in about 2 weeks. We were on honeymoon as well, so we kind of just wanted to take it, fairly steady. So the very first trip that we did, like I said, this is going back to 2004, and this also kind of introduces a fairly important transition for me, because if you remember in a previous live stream, I spoke to you about walking on Dartmoor. And when I did that Dartmoor walking, which was 2003, because Sue always, she stuck to boots. She never gave up wearing boots. But I was quite keen to get away from boots and start wearing trail shoes. And it was basically 2003, I was like, had to wear boots, didn't want boots to get wet, was like terrified, petrified of wet boots, and did that Dartmoor trip, as I mentioned in a previous live stream. And basically, I took 2 pairs of boots. I took a pair of Scarpa SL and a pair of Scarpa Delta boots, because I found the Scarpa boots fitted me better than the Mindle boots. I found the Mindle boots to be too wide for me. So 2004, it was like a transition year. I'd been chatting with Chris Townsend at that time for a year or 2, and I'd been following his books and his exploits and things like that in hiking. And I was also following some of the long distance walkers in America. Chad Poindexter was one going back. I haven't seen him on YouTube for a long time now, but I used to follow his trips, and there were others as well. I can't really remember their names, but there were others that I followed as well, and they all seemed to be wearing trail shoes. And this just seemed to me to be a good option. And I just had to figure out how to go about it, what was the best way of doing it, what was the best shoes to wear. And of course, I was still slightly concerned at that moment about wet feet. So the very first trail shoes that I got were some uh I can't be they begin with M, but Merrill. I think it was something like Merrill or something like that. But it was a solid leather shoe. And I have to say they were when I was wearing them, around the house and walking at that time, it would have been Bess and Sasha. They were fine. But when I actually took them out into the mountains, they were far from suitable. The quality was poor. They just, I mean, they were an outdoor shoe. I mean, they were a cheaper outdoor shoe, but not super, super cheap. So they just weren't a very good shoe. I just vaguely remember, like I said, you're going back almost 20 years now. I mean, this is like, well, virtually 18 years ago. So I'm kind of going from memory a bit, but it still it still lingers in the old brain cells. But I just vaguely remember these shoes deforming as I was walking. So, and they also got, of course, they got soaked because it was October 2004. And of course, the weather, in the Lake District in October is pretty wet, like I found out last year, although it wasn't as wet as that. But it was still pretty damn wet underfoot. So I tried wearing these hiking approach shoes, and they were very uncomfortable. Uh, I think I'd also at about that time got into super feet. So I don't know if any of you wear super feet or anything like that, but they're definitely worth looking into. So if you get blisters or overpronation or your feet move a lot inside your boots, I never really seem to hear about super feet now. I'm very sure that they're sold in outdoor shops, but in all the Facebook groups and things like that, they never mention fitting feet, and things like that, or super feet, which is strange because they've been around like since I started, and they really, really, really helped me. And I just go back in time a bit because I mentioned that when I started walking, I had the Scarpa SL boot. And when I was measured for my very, very first pair of Scarpa SLs, and that was probably 2002 or something like that, they measured my feet and he measured my foot as a 44. And I wore these Scarpa 44s, SL 40 size 44s for a year or so. And generally speaking, they were okay, but I always felt that they were a bit on the big side for me, and I could never quite understand why they were large and not the greatest fitting of boots, because the Scarpa SL is it's as good a boot as you're likely to get. I mean, it was an amazing boot, freakingly heavy, I have to say, and no flex at all. I mean, it was like walking around on a brick. But they were nice boots. I did enjoy the Scarpa SLs. So I was always just wondering why the heck are they not fitting perfectly after I'd had my feet measured. So, and again, I think I did a bit more research. Maybe I chatted with Chris, I'm not quite sure, or somewhere else. Anyway, I came across Superfeet. Had Superfeet actually, and guess you can still do it. And now I just buy them off the shelf, as it were, and just cut them to size. But they did do it where you actually had a custom fit, and you basically just go and sit in a chair, and you pay an extra, I don't know, double the price or something stupid. I don't know what it is now. Like I said, you're going back bloody years. But basically, they put the mold on your foot, heated it up, and then they sort of molded the super feet to your foot, and then you just let it cool off, and then you put that in your boot or your shoe. And I've been wearing super feet ever since, and I wear them in every single boot, shoe, footwear that I use, apart from sandals. I wear them in every single thing. And after I'd been fitted with Super Feet, I said, can you measure my feet? Measure my feet. And they knew what they were doing. It's a shame the first people didn't. And they measured my feet inside the Super Feet. Because if you measure your foot without Super Feet, your foot is going to be its elongated size, and so your foot will actually be longer than it actually is because of overpronation. So this chap measured my feet wearing the Super Feet, and it transpired that I was a size 43, not a 44. So ever since then, I've always worn Super Feet, and I've always got a size 43, and I've never ever had a problem. So, if you find that your feet are not fitting your footwear properly and you're getting blisters, hot spots, or anything like that, then just check out Superfeet. Like I said, they've been around for millennia now, but they're well worth looking into. Anyway, going back to this trip, as I say, 2004, Lake District, October. We were just doing day walks then. There was no camping. And I had these solid leather shoes that I was wearing, and they were really, really, they were uncomfortable. And they, like I said, the problem why I don't recommend leather footwear or even waterproof shoes when you're walking, if it's very, very wet underfoot, is because, of course, if water gets into your foot or into the shoe, it's not going to get out again. So you're basically just going to be walking around. You may as well just wear Gore-Tex. You're going to be just as worse off. And it took me 6 months or something like that to kind of like figure that one out, really. And that's when I then, as I think I've mentioned in one of my videos on wet feet. So I've got a video somewhere on here about wet feet. And I just, I just had this weird thought. I thought I better just make sure, double check I'm talking on the right channel. And yes, I am. Because I did a live stream early December talking all about the Duke of Edinburgh Award when I did all my hiking and walking and camping when I was at school. And I was kind of like a bit surprised why a couple of watch people came on and they were asking about watches and things like that. And it wasn't until I was finished talking that I realized I was I was doing a camping live stream on the Watch channel. So in case you haven't seen it, there is one, it's in the wrong place, but it doesn't matter. There is one live stream, and you can find it because someone asked the other day and they had a bit of a struggle to find it, but it is there. There is one live stream active on my Wild About Watch channel, and we don't really talk Rolex on there so much now. It's significantly more Garmin and G-Shock and things like that at the moment. The reason why we don't talk Rolex so much is because you can't get the bloody things. Rarer than hen's teeth at the moment. So basically, I was just doing this live stream talking about Duke of Edinburgh, and I got to the end of it, and then I realized I was on the wrong channel. So pop over there. Even if you're not interested in watches particularly, I wouldn't mind your subscribe over there just to try and get the subscriptions up on that one. Anyway, so yeah, so check that live stream out if you want to listen for about an hour or so of me talking about my Duke of Edinburgh expedition walk. And I did that one in the super mid in the middle of Dartmoor, and it was kind of a little bit windy that day. Anyway, so this particular, like I said, this trip to the Lake District, we were, as I say, I was with Sue then, but I say I was wearing trail shoes and they got soaked. And the first trip that we did was to Blencathra. And I remember parking again. I don't know whether you know the Lake District that much. I've only been there a few times and vaguely know it. But Blencathra is like a mountain that kind of, you park on this side where you could, I don't know what it's like now, but you could park over here. And then you kind of basically just did a ziggy-zaggy walk up to the top. And then you walk along the top. And then you have to walk down this microphone's now in the way. You kind of have to walk down the other side, and you had like two ways of getting off. I kind of went down and then you had to be pretty accurate with your navigation for getting off it because it's not the easiest to get off, from what I remember. And when you got down to a sort of a bit that went kind of like that type of thing, then I think you took a right hand turn, and that took you down to like, when I say ground level, but like roadish level, and then you had to like basically walk along the base of Blencathra, pretty much back to the car park. And I have to say, it was a bit of a trek. It took us a while, bearing in mind we hadn't done a huge amount of walking either. So that was the first one, the first trip that we did. And I vaguely remember that was a bit breezy, but not too windy, but very, very foggy. And we had no GPS or anything like that. I think I had like a Sun 2 or silver. I think it was a silver SILVA silver GPS unit, which was like, which was like this hard drive size, but maybe a bit narrower, and a bit longer. And then the screen on the front of it was like, I don't know, it was a bit bigger than something like that, but it wasn't it wasn't much bigger. I mean, okay, maybe it was like 4 times bigger than that, but given the size of the unit, it was a very, very small screen. And I remember before getting the maps out, and then using basically a pen and paper and writing down grid references of all the points that we would walk to, all the way around. So for one walk like that, you didn't do every like 2 meters or anything stupid like that, but basically straight lines, and just give you a rough idea, and you'd end up with maybe 10 or 20 grid references to get you around. You have to write them all down on a piece of paper, or before all this computer stuff. I should write them all down on a piece of paper, and then individually put the grid reference into this ancient GPS unit, which was kind of interesting and fun, I have to say. So we did this particular walk, and we got to top of Blencathra, and it was quite breezy. And I remember now, I was wearing, I had a mountain, uh, um, I had a mountain hardware Shola, something like that. It was like a soft shell, but it wasn't a windproof soft shell. And it was very, very comfortable, but it wasn't wind resistant. I think we'd packed waterproofs in case it rained, but it wasn't waterproof. And it certainly wasn't windproof. And I remember getting to the top, and the wind just went straight through this Shola material. It's something like Shola, something like that. It was a soft shell anyway, but the wind went straight through it, and it was like quite chilly up there. And then it was that trip when I bought an Arc'teryx Polartec windproof jacket. It wasn't Wind Pro or Windstopper. It was the Polartec version. I assume they still do it, and it was like blocked something like 98 or 99% of the wind going through it. So after this particular walk, that was when we got that. I got that jacket, and I used that for the rest of that trip. So the watch that I was using, just as I wasn't really into watches back then, but the watch that I was using was a Sunto Vector, and basically that had certainly no GPS or anything like that, but it had compass, altimeter, and a barometer on it. And I'd set the altimeter at the top, and I knew that when I was coming down from Blencathra, I wanted to turn right and come down one of the ridges. I call it a ridge, whatever they're called. One of the ridges, and then that basically took you down to the base, and you walked along the bottom of Blencathra back to the car park. So, and it was really, really misty, so you could see Jack S. You couldn't see a single thing, so you were literally And my navigation back then, I have to say, when I did my Dartmoor walking, which was the year before, again, I've done a live stream on that one as well. I couldn't navigate at all, and I was literally relying on that GPS unit. But in the year between Dartmoor and the Lake District, I had kind of brushed up a little bit on navigation. And of course, we'd done some Dartmoor trips before going to the Lake District. So I sort of did a bit of, practice on Dartmoor. I'd read some books. Again, there was no YouTube back then, but I'd read some books, and I just kind of sort of worked it out, really. I was rubbish at counting steps and rubbish at timing. Timing never really worked for me anyway, because one, I'm either stopping, or two, I would be, like I said, I was with my late wife at that time, Sue, and I have to say, she wasn't the quickest of people walking. So invariably, I'd be walking in front, and then I'd be looking behind to see where she was, and then I'd end up then stopping and waiting for her to catch up, or looking back and seeing her fall down a hole or something, tripping over or something. She spent most of the time on the ground, I think. Um, so timing wasn't really, practical, and I was pretty rubbish at counting steps. I did get some beads, but I never got into counting beads and things like that for counting steps. So basically, the way that I was navigating was effectively by point and shoot the compass in that direction, and kind of, aim for something. And coming down Blencathra, I was literally aiming for this ridge when you could barely even see it in the mist. And I was literally relying on my old Sunto Vector watch with the altimeter on it. And for some stupid reason, I don't know why, but I was often concentrating so much when I was walking that I wasn't really concentrating on other things like checking the altimeter. So of course, we were walking down and down and down and down. And then I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, what's the height that we're at? So I checked the height, and we were about 50 meters or 100 meters lower than we should have been. And I used to get quite, and I still do sometimes, I used to get quite annoyed with myself. Actually, that's another. I haven't got a pen with me because I need to remember to tell you about Coniston as well. I've written down Blencathra, Helvellyn, and Great Gable. I need to remember Coniston as well. So basically, we were walking down, and I went at least 50 meters further than I should have done down. And of course, then I had to turn around and go back up again. And I have to say, navigating by altitude, as long as you calibrate often, is very, very effective, especially if it's in a very, very hilly area. Because when I walk back up to, let's say that ridge coming off the mountain was 500 meters or whatever it was. When I got to 500 meters and I looked left, I have to say, the ridge was literally there. Not only was the ridge there, but there was some stones, and some stones had been broken or something like that. And there was like a little path thing, which if you were walking past, you'd miss it, easily miss it. But knowing that you were at that height, and that at that height there should be a ridge there, and then you look down at the ground, there was actually like a very indistinct path there, but there was a path. And then we basically just blind luck. I mean, in a way, it's kind of a good job we didn't fall off the bloody mountain. But basically, I just said, okay, look, I said to Sula, I think this is the height we're supposed to be, 500 meters or whatever it was. And that's the direction. I took the compass bearing, just took the compass bearing. And then basically, we just sort of blindly in the mist just walked in that direction. And it kind of, because Blencathra is it was kind of like narrow, kind of like that. It's very steep one side. Like one side of Blencathra is like that, and then the other side of Blencathra is kind of like that. And then you've got ridges that run off it. And we kind of started walking down there, and it was so misty you couldn't see anything, and it kind of got narrower and narrower and narrower, and we were going down and down and down, and we just couldn't see anything. And I must admit, it was quite hair raising going down there for the first 10 or 15 minutes because, like I said, we were on a very narrow ridge. We could see nothing. And I was literally relying blindly on navigation of literally of a map and compass. Anyway, we went down a bit further, and then of course you get lower, and then the mist cleared, and then you could see the ridge that you were on. And then after that, you just went down. You could see the mountain behind you, and obviously we got back to the car. Fine. So that was the first one that we did. And I can't remember the order of them, I have to say. I can't remember the order of them, but then we did. Okay, so I've not written down Coniston, and there's another one over there as well that we went up. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. But anyway, I'll talk about Coniston then. So we parked the car at Coniston. So we basically did walking one day, and then like sightseeing. That was like Sue's day, and then walking and then sightseeing. It was kind of like that, really. So then we had to try and get up to Coniston, and this was kind of like an interesting one as well. This was a very, very interesting trip. We parked the car fairly close to Coniston, and I didn't really understand the paths. So I was often thinking that the path that you saw on the map, like a red dotty line, was a path. And it wasn't until many years later that I realized that a red dotty line, or whatever the color the line was, anyway, this particular line wasn't necessarily a path, but a right of way, meaning that you could, even though it was, Rome, it was Rome's access to Rome, or whatever they call it. But it was kind of like there are certain areas that they give you access to walk with a dotty line. And I was like assuming that this dotty line meant that you could actually walk on that area. So I want to know how you like choosing a tent in the past rather than your king. All right, let me do Coniston, and then I'll answer some of those questions, and then I'll come back. So I'm just gonna okay. So at the moment I can't see the questions, and I'll come back to them in a minute because otherwise it kind of sometimes it distracts me when they've got loads there. But if it's just you, that's fine. I'll answer that question in a minute. So I thought this dotty line was basically a path, and most of it was. And we were basically walking along the base of Coniston area, and then the dotty line went up a gully. It was like a gully. I mean, if it had been raining, then I think water would have been coming down it, but it was quite dry. And basically, I just said to Sue, "That's the path going up there. We kind of need to go up that way to get to Coniston." And I have to say, it didn't really look much like a path. But anyway, we tackled it anyway. And it got steeper and steeper as we went higher up. I sure as hell would not have wanted to have come down it, I have to say. And we got about halfway up, and but by that time, it was almost having to pull yourself up with hands. It was just loose ground. It wasn't scrambling or anything like that, but I have to say, it was really quite unpleasant to get up. And like I said, I've since figured out that actually that wasn't even a path going up there. And we got about halfway, and I kind of got, you hear of people, they get to a certain point on trying to climb up and they get stuck and they literally can't go up or down. And that happened to me on that trip. And I was actually stuck and I couldn't move one way or the other. And Sue was behind me, and I said to her, "Call down." I said, "Don't come up my way because you're going to end up getting stuck and I can't move." I said, "You're going to have to somehow go around, come above me, and grab me hand and pull me up." I don't know, but for some reason I was literally just stuck and I couldn't move. Anyway, eventually we got to the top, and like I said, I was kind of like trying to pride myself a bit on on navigation on this trip, and we were walking along, and so Coniston effectively would have been on the left, and on the right down was a lake or a tarn or something. I don't know what it's called. So we were kind of like walking along parallel to that. And basically, I should have realized that we'd somehow missed Coniston. I don't know how I missed it, but somehow I'd walk right past it. Um, and then there's another hill a little bit further next to Coniston. And when I walked to that one, I thought that was Coniston. I thought that was the top of Coniston. I said, "Oh no, we're the top of Coniston here. This is fine. This looks all right." So we got to that one, and then we walked a bit further, and they started to go down, and that's when I looked at the map and I thought, "Hang on a minute. If that's Coniston, which we were just on." This is where kind of like map reading is kind of like interesting as well, because you can actually use the map to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. So basically, if the map says you're supposed to be going, level flat, and you're actually going down, you know you've done something wrong somewhere. So because we were on the top of that hill, which I thought was Coniston, but it was actually the next one over, and then of course we were walking along, and I was like sort of thinking, okay, now we should be walking towards the hill that we'd already stood on, which we thought was Coniston. And then we started go actually physically walking down a hill. And I looked at the map and I thought, hang on a minute, there's something not right here. So I got that GPS unit, just checked the grid reference of where we were. And then I realized the mistake that I'd made. And somehow I completely walked past Coniston. I didn't even notice it. Anyway, so we went back, and I have to say, I'm quite cool-headed, but it really was frustrating that we'd somehow missed it. So anyway, we got to Coniston, and we had a cup of tea, because we always took a flask with us and took the usual photograph and everything. And then of course we walked back to this hill that we'd already been on already, and then of course we started walking down. And when we were halfway down, it was really quite funny now. When we were halfway down, I was like I was steaming. I was absolutely steaming with annoyance that I'd gone wrong. So that's all. And I was like fuming. I had my walking sticks, and I threw my walking sticks down on the ground, like like a little kid throwing his toys out the pram. It was so funny, really. Luckily, there was nobody around, so I couldn't look stupid. And then we stopped and we had a cup of tea. We finished our cup of tea. We got up, and we carried on walking. We got to the bottom, and then we were walking along the bottom towards the car. And I kind of started scratching my head, and I was kind of like thinking, I'm missing something. What am I missing? I'd only gone and left a bloody walking poles halfway up the hill, because when I threw them down, they must have gone a bit further away from me. And of course, when we stood up and I carried on walking down, I completely forgot my walking poles. So we had to walk back. It wasn't that, to be honest, it wasn't that far, but it was a good half-hour walk back again. So we go back, get my walking poles, and then back to the car. But that was another fun trip. Let me Okay, let's just have a look at these questions, and as you've been kind enough to hang around for ages plus. So I want to know how you liked using a tent in the last few videos, and one of your Meryl's always had a good. Yeah, I didn't like the Meryl's, and there was another one, Salomon, and I hated them too. Salomon, they were rubbish. I think it was the grips, and I think with the Meryl, from what I remember, the grips just weren't very good. Maybe but again, don't forget, maybe at that time I was also possibly wearing a 44 rather than a 43, because even though I would have had my foot fitted, I might still have been a bit confused as to what size shoe I was supposed to be wearing. So it's too long ago. I can't remember why, but I know that they like misshaped themselves, and they just were not very They just were not very nice. The grips wasn't very nice on them. They were misshapen with me walking in them, and basically, and I think Salomon was the same. I didn't like those shoes either. I tried a few different types, and it wasn't until I eventually found Innovate that I suddenly, and of course, I did a video on that like donkeys years ago. Um, before I um before I like figured out, Innovate. And of course, if you watch that video when I mention about getting your feet wet before Innovate, so I was in America, and actually, this is probably what helped. Actually, I was in America, and I went into one of the outdoor stores, maybe REI or something like that, and I saw some Vask shoes. I can't remember what the Vask shoe was called now, but it was a blue shoe, and it was I call it mesh, whatever the material is, but it's like a mesh, very, very breathable material on it. And I bought a pair of those, and I did quite a lot of walking on Dartmoor with those, and they were brilliant. I really, really liked those. They were super. But of course, because they were up fast, it was American, you couldn't get them here. Um, Although I think once actually Snow and Rock sold them once. I think I did get one extra pair at Snow and Rock, and then I couldn't get them again, and that's when I found Innovate. Um, so so he probably assumed you would be wearing two pairs of socks. So obviously you're going back to, I don't know, possible. I mean, he didn't say anything about wearing, two pairs of socks or anything like that. And realistically, though, if you're having a boot fitted, I'm assuming that you should have a boot fitted that's going to fit for, you know, spring, well, maybe not summertime, but like spring, autumn, and winter. And I would have thought you'd want a boot that would fit reasonably comfortably, without having to wear an extra pair of socks to fit it. I'm kind of like thinking, if you got to put an extra pair of socks on to get your boots to fit, your boots are the wrong size. And I kind of also think that if you have um yeah, because I mean, to go from 43 to 44, that's like, well, in European sizes, it's quite a lot, isn't it? And I wouldn't have thought that. I'm not really an expert, I don't know, but I wouldn't have thought. Oh, I keep fiddling with things. I'm terrible. I wouldn't have thought that an extra pair of socks is the way to fit boots, but personally. So I don't know. Um, sell. So yeah, you're obviously guessing you're meaning sell all my MLD stuff. No, it was good fun to use a tent. I enjoy it. I do enjoy a tent. I must admit, I do enjoy a tent as a change now and again. The problem is it's the weight. That, I mean, obviously the Namos 3 GT is not exactly what you're going to be, calling a lightweight tent. But I mean that was like four it's like 4 kilograms or something like that. I knew I was only going to be walking into that camp about, it's like 3 kilometers or something like that. And I knew I was staying put. And I knew it. So I knew I wasn't walking or anything like that. So, I was quite keep fiddling with things, they fall off. Exactly. I'm always picking up something. I mean, I won't pick that up, but it was one of those. It was one of these SanDisk holder things here. I'm terrible for picking things up. So I find it'll be on the floor. It'll be on the floor somewhere. Um, yeah. So I just distracted myself now. So boots. Where was I? I've forgotten where we were now. Yeah, MLD. So yeah, I do like a tent. A tent is good fun, and is good fun, and it's obviously very enclosing, and obviously it keeps the wind out. And I can understand why people like a tent so much, because when I'm in there, I kind of think, yeah, I kind of understand why people, like a tent. but I also think that people are probably missing out, and I also suspect that quite a few people, because my friend who joined me at the end of this last trip, I have a feeling, and I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that he always closed the tent up at night. And of course, that adds, to potential condensation, and that type of thing. So, if you do have a tent, I do suggest that you actually just leave the doors open. Because again, that's just something else that I picked up from Chris, like, years and years and years ago, that, just leave the door open. Don't, unless it's raining, you know, don't close the door unless you have to close the door. Don't close the tent door. Leave the tent door open. Leave as much open as you can, and then that way you will get much better ventilation, and then your tent will probably have less condensation in it. So maybe one of the reasons why everybody gets so much condensation in the tent is because they have this mindset that they're in the tent and it's got a door and they must do the door up at night. I would suggest very strongly that you actually don't do that, that you actually leave everything as much as you can open. you know leave you know leave your doors open, or at the very least leave the vent door of the inner part open. So maybe do the door up, but don't do the vent part of the inner door up. And as long as it's not raining, leave the outer door completely open. Or I guess you could, if you wanted to, you could close the outer door and make sure the vent is open as much as possible, and just leave the inner door, wide open. And with the hillybugs, what I've noticed, I don't want a Dartmoor cow coming in my tent. They're very good, actually. I mean, I've camped on Dartmoor, as you know, a million times in tarps and trail stars and, things that don't even have doors. And of course, that time when I camped and I had the cows were literally in front of me, and I set the super mid up. And I think it was that trip when I did that live stream on the wrong channel. But they don't actually bother you. They get very inquisitive and very, very close. I mean, those cows were close. I didn't I could have leaned forward and touched one of them. It got that close to me. I didn't even have to walk or move a foot or a leg, and one of them was so close to me. I could have done it probably would have to been quite a bit of a lean, and I can't guarantee I wouldn't have fallen over, but they were incredibly close. But actually, that's interesting that you mentioned that. In some ways, that's what they're interested in. So they're more likely to ignore you if you don't have a dog. So, in all honesty, if you in some ways around cows, you're better off not having a dog, than having a dog, because that's what they're interested in. They're not really so much interested in you. They see a dog and then they want to come over and have a look. And also, I because if they don't get too close to me, I don't worry about Lassie too much, because she might bark sometimes, but she doesn't really bark so much, and she doesn't do anything that she's not supposed to. So if they don't come too close, I just don't really worry about it. She might do one bark and then come straight back to me. She doesn't do anything. But if they get very, very close, like these were, then I think she would have barked a lot and probably just scattered the whole herd everywhere. And I don't know how many cows there were at that time, but you can see it in that video. There must have been 30 or 40 or something like that. I mean, I sure as hell would not have wanted that lot, galloping, towards me. So basically, most of the time I just let Lassie do what she wants to do around camp. But on that occasion, I put her on the lead and then attached the lead to the rucksack. And when I first got there, I actually didn't do anything for about 10 or 15 minutes. I basically just stood my ground exactly where I was as they just walked up to me. And I just didn't do anything. I wasn't going to turn my back on them or anything. I just basically just stood there, and I could just see them sort of almost surround me, but not quite. They certainly were within 180 degrees on each side of me, plus, in front. So basically, I just stood there for about 15 plus minutes, just waiting to see what the devil they were going to do, because I didn't want to turn around and start, pitching something, and then they, I don't think that, to be honest, I don't think they would have even have, you know, come any closer and like trampled on me from behind. But I wasn't particularly in. They were. I just. Yeah, I wasn't going to be. I had my walking poles with me, so if they got too close, then I could have, tapped one on the nose of a walking pole or something like that. But basically they just basically just stood in front of me, and they didn't move, and they just stayed there. They stood there for ages, and then eventually it got to the point where I started to think, okay, I can see that you're not going to move, therefore I think, I felt confident enough at that point that I could start to set this, set the super mid up. And I had Lassie, tied to my pack. At one point, one of the cows came around, sort of around the back a little bit, and it got a bit too close to my left-hand side. And then steak for dinner. Got a bit too close on this side, and of course Lassie was tied to my pack, and then of course she went to shoot off, to bark at the cow that was getting a bit too close, but of course because she was attached to the pack, she couldn't actually get anywhere. So she basically just pulled the pack a tiny bit, and of course because the super mid at that point was on the ground but not pitched, of course the silly dog just ran straight across the super mid. So she had a couple of choice words a couple of choice words from me for running across my Cuban fiber super mid, but luckily everything was fine. So I then pitched it, and as I was pitching it, basically the cows just slowly started to disperse and just get a little bit further, away, but very, very slowly. The only thing that I really regret is that I was so concentrating on just keeping an eye on them because they were so close to me. I never once thought to record it about how close they were. And then it was only when they backed off a little bit that I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, try and get the GoPro out or something like that. Or I tried the GoPro and it wasn't enough light for that. So then I think I used the iPhone. Or did I use, no, yeah, I think I used the iPhone for it. But yeah, that was a fun, yeah, that was fun. And of course, like I said, that was a super mid. And it's just a proper, it's just a better, it's just better. No one, yeah, I mean, I really, I do enjoy using a tent. I will say that the Hillyberg it is a nice tent, don't get me wrong. It is a nice tent, and it's probably one of the best that you're going to get, obviously. And it's not just the name. I mean, clearly, they clearly put good quality into it. But I have to say, you're never going to beat you're never going to beat an MLD super mid or trail style or something like that. It's like a fraction of the weight with the same amount of ish space, the same protection. I mean, this last trip that I did in the wind, the trail style would have just laughed at it. I mean, the trail style would have been, it just wouldn't have even, what's this? What's the expression? Hand me the coffee or whatever it is, or something like that. But of course, the Namaz 3GT did, brilliantly, as well. So yes, it is nice to use a tent. And my next camp, I'm probably going to use a tent again. I'm thinking the next one I do, I'll take the Acto, because two reasons. One, it's been at least a year and a half since I've used it, because basically every camp that I do, I film some part of it or all of it or whatever. So what you see is basically what I do. Whenever I go camping, I record it. I never go camping, secretly and think, well, I'm not going to film this camp, and take 20,000 tents or something. Basically, what you see is what you get. So it's been about a year and a half at least. Go back, find out when the last time was I used the Acto. Um, so yeah, I think the next time I'm going to take that, because one question I had on the Sulu, I think I pronounced it wrong in my video. I always butcher pronunciations deliberately sometimes because it's just fun, but I didn't know how you pronounced it. But I've now since figured out it's Sulu. So kind of like thinking, having I didn't sleep in it, obviously. Although my friend did say that we could have, if we'd have thought of it, we could have swapped tents, which could have been interesting. But we didn't think of it at the time. But basically, I lay out in it in that Sulu video. So like I've got fairly good memory of how it was to pitch, what it was like inside and everything else like that. So I think given that, and obviously people are interested in that type of thing, I think I'll definitely take the Acto next, because then I'll be in a reasonably good position to sit in the Acto and compare it in my mind to the other tent, to the Sulu. And what I might be able to do, I don't know how easy it will be, but I've figured out a few bits on Adobe Premiere Pro, and you can actually put two pieces of film onto one screen, so you can see two things. So I might be able to kind of like lie down in it, sit up in it, move my feet around in it, and do a few fairly basic things like that, and then take the footage that I recorded last week and then just sort of edit it in, and that type, and then maybe do a video comparing the two in a fairly basic way, but by editing in footage from the last one, that might work. Tony, I would like to see. So I don't know if that's completely answered the tent thing, but you will never get me completely away from tents. I'm kind of like, I have to say, I'm really itching to get that MLD Grace Duo tarp back out again, because that's actually probably one of my favorite shelters. Whilst I love, if I could only ever have one, it would obviously be the Trail Star. Just there is just nothing better than the Trail Star. There just isn't. So if I could only ever have one, it would be the Trail Star. And I love the Super Mid as well, because it's so ridiculously big, and that is just absolutely perfect for for winter camping. The Super Mid is just an amazing shelter, as long as you've got enough shelter, as in from the wind. But even then, I reckon it would handle a pretty strong breeze. But I really do like a big a big shelter. I like room, and what I like about the Grace Duo, being that it's just basically a tarp, is that it's actually quite big, and you can actually pitch it with the back very low, and you can actually pitch one side quite low. If the wind was, say, coming in this way, you can actually pitch that side quite low to the ground, maybe not as low as you can like a Trail Star or Super Mid or something, but you can pitch it quite low, and then this side you could pitch higher up simply by having a longer guy line. Really, just do it using the guy lines, and then have a very, very long pole at the front. And you can have, certainly where you're sitting, where your body is, a ton of space under there, easily as much. Okay, not as much as a Super Mid, obviously. I don't literally mean that much space, but a surprising amount of room under that Grace Duo, that MLD Grace Duo. That probably is my kind of like my favorite shelter for the right conditions. And there've been a couple of times when I've thought about taking it out in the winter, because I actually think it would probably be okay to try it in the winter. But I tend to go, as you know, for like 3, sometimes 4 nights, and it might just be a bit too much, to be out that long in a tarp. I'm not quite sure, but I really do like that. And of course, the only other problem with that, if the wind does a 180 on you, at least with the Trow Star, you can just literally move two or three pegs and just change the door, as I did when I was in the Lake District. That last trip in the Lake District, when the weather was shockingly poor, I actually changed the door position 3 times in that one trip. But of course, if you have a tarp and the wind changes direction, you're kind of screwed a bit. You basically got to, unpitch the whole thing and turn the whole thing around. So because I like to camp for several nights, it's not really so convenient from that point of view. So I'm kind of really itching. I'm really itching to get back out in that Grace Duo. That is my favorite fun shelter, and it's a serious shelter as well. You could, if you had one night and you knew that the wind would be, fairly consistent, I reckon you would get away with that in the middle of winter. As long as you had a good sleeping bag and everything else, to look after you under it. I reckon that would actually be a really good winter shelter if you were kind of like brave enough. So yeah, so I do like, the tents and things like that. And again, like I said, I'll come on to this cooking one in a second. But basically, I think if you're having a problem with condensation, leave doors, or at least some doors open, or at least with the Hillybergs, leave that top vent on the outer door open as much as possible. And if it's not raining and you still want the door up, because as someone mentioned something about, obviously people like the coziness. I don't know if Forest Walker's still around, but obviously, yeah. And I know one chap, he actually he, he owns a walking store, and he was quite a big, strong, not quite Jack Reacher type of person, but someone who's quite, you think like a bear wouldn't really bother him or anything like that. But he always at night did the door up, and he could never sleep without the door done up. I suppose there's different courses for courses and things like that. So if you prefer the door done up, do your door up, but then expect condensation. So what it would be useful for you, if you have to do the door up, is do the outer door up, but leave the inner door not done up. I would be doing it this way around, I think, but then leave the vent, that top Hillyberg vent, as wide open as you possibly can, and that will let a lot of air out. Like I said, the other option, of course, is that you leave the outer door open completely, and then just do up the inner door, but leave the vent section open, and that might work as well. You might just find that you have to practice or try both options in different conditions and see which one gives you less condensation. But I reckon if you do that, your Hillyberg tents would probably have less condensation in them, maybe. Yeah, you want to see more cooking? Yes. I am trying to get into cooking. I've got this. I don't quite know. Oh, sorry. I'm going to try and get this ridge monkey out again at some point, but it is really, really quite heavy. So I think this is going to be more. I can't take it when I've got the tents and things like that. It's just too heavy. But I kind of like got this ridge monkey thing here, and of course I used it on that one occasion when I did the Happy New Year Christmas video. So I will get this out and I will take it on to Dartmoor, but I probably will just wait another couple of months. That's where, if I can get that tarp back out again, and then I've got something really, really light, then I don't mind adding weight. If I can save weight one place, then I don't mind adding weight, something like this, somewhere else. So give it a couple more months ish, and then I'll get this ridge monkey out, And I did do um, that video that I did where I was cooking those sausages in the Trail Designs pot. That was the trip when my jet boil didn't work. So that trip, I'd actually gone out with the intention of using the jet boil, and that's what you do too, yeah. So it's kind of like have one heavy thing, but then take something else lighter, and then it kind of balances things out a bit. But that trip, I had taken the jet boil. Everything went wrong on that trip because the jet boil didn't work, and then I lost the footage on one of the memory cards. But one good thing that came out of that trip, though, was I started using two cameras just to get some different angles and things like that. Try and make it a bit more interesting for you rather than, just one camera looking at it. And luckily, I Googled how to edit two cameras together. And on Premiere Pro, which I use, there is an option on there called multicam editing, and it is actually quite easy. So that video which I did those sausages on, I nearly edited that video several weeks ago, and then I got distracted by other camps and other videos and things like that. So I never actually got around to doing that video a few weeks ago. And it's actually a good job that I didn't, because I came back to that video and it was in Premiere Pro. And I thought, how am I going to edit? I was a bit worried about it, to be honest, because I thought, how am I going to edit that together? Because I've got two different cameras with different footage. Because sometimes when I do two cameras, which is not that often, to be honest, anyway, but if I've got two cameras, sometimes I'm only recording like just a snippet with the other camera. Like when I packed the when I did the Talon 44 packing video, I used the second camera, but with that one I just did like a few snippets on the other camera. So when I edited that one together, I basically just sort of knew approximately what I was recording, because I could actually see myself picking the other camera up. So when I'm recording with one camera, I can actually see that I'm picking up a camera in that recording. So I know at that moment I got the camera in my hand and I'm turning it on and then pointing it, in the pack or something like that. So it's kind of like at that moment, they would then find that clip and then, cut a small piece out of it and then add it in, so you could like look into the pack as I'm putting something in. So that was how I did that one. But that was relatively easy because basically, as I say, I was just recording tiny clips. But with that cooking the sausages video, I was basically, and I don't know why I didn't record me eating them. The only thing I can think of is that maybe I did me eating them on the GoPro when the card went bust, because I definitely recorded me eating them, because I remember going, this is really nice, but I haven't got that footage. I keep I keep distracting myself. So yeah, so I had this footage of these sausages, and then I was thinking, how am I going to edit that together? And I was getting a bit worried about that. And then I just put, how do you edit two videos together? And one video came up and told you exactly how you do it. You just put, you put your footage in this, and you drop this box down, and you tap that, and then all of a sudden, and it was unbelievably easy. And that was primarily because I'd let the two cameras run at pretty much the same time and I hadn't stopped them. I think if I was stopping and changing, then I think it would have got more complicated. But basically, I just let them run. And then because of that, it actually syncs up the sound that because I mean, I didn't do any of this clap, because what they say is that you should actually like do a clap so that the software can time that clap. But I didn't even do that because I didn't even know anything about it. But luckily, I didn't even have to, and the software was able to, piece together the two videos going by my voice as I was talking, I guess. And then, of course, you then just edit through, and you just watch it. So on the right-hand side of the screen of what you're looking at on the Premiere Pro, you can actually see the main thing of what you're looking at, as it were, the like one camera, and then on the left hand side you can actually see both cameras side by side, and then you just sort of touch one or two, and then I didn't do it like that. I did a cut, and then within that cut I would press one, and then I'd go on a bit more, and then I'd make another cut, and then press two. So that was kind of like how I was doing it, which is, I think, is probably a good way of doing it, but it's a bit more long-winded. What they actually say is if you just press one and two for the two cameras as you're watching, and then it will just switch over automatically for you and put the cut in for you as well. So I might try that as well. But like I said, that sausage video, sausage video, that was that trip when I would have used the Jetboil, but of course the Jetboil didn't work, and the memory card failed as well. So we're kind of lucky that with that one, I did some of the recording on the GoPro Hero 9, and on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So I'm kind of a 3-camera person now, indirectly, because I've got the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which I use mainly for close-up stuff. And then I got the GoPro Hero 10, and then obviously still the GoPro Hero 9, which I use sometimes as well. So maybe I'll try like a 3-camera setup, but I might keep it simple for the moment. And then I did a camp sometime. I think it was either in December or January, beginning of January. I can't remember now. And I took the Jetboil again with me and the frying pan, and I did film frying sausages, bacon, and baked beans, and eating it. But I haven't edited it yet. It should be, it's there, it's somewhere on the computer. I just haven't edited it yet. So I will do more cooking. Like I said, there is one more to do. It'll probably be a while before I get it edited, but there is one, and I will do more cooking forward, because I think that also might help the channel to grow a little bit. You know, that's one of the reasons why I'm using like more mainstream, you know, things as well occasionally, just to try and that might attract more attention over this way, and then they can watch how it's done properly with the other videos. But that's why I kind of got the Talon 55 pack, and I've got a video on that which I haven't done yet. I won't spoil it, but I wasn't too impressed with that one, to be honest. But anyway, we'll skirt over that one. We'll cross that bridge when I do the video. Novice had a similar problem with cards in GoPro. It's on one of his more recent videos, something about a better quality card. Yeah, it was, yes. I don't know what happened to my one of my cards was a because they're all SanDisk, and it was an Extreme Pro Max Pro thing, 128 gigabyte, but I got it from Amazon, and I'm just wondering whether it was a fake and therefore not as reliable, you know, as a genuine one. And then I had another card failure this last trip, although luckily I didn't lose too much on it, because it was on the card that was in the GoPro 9. And I've not, and I've used that card. I've used a lot before, actually, and that was a SanDisk, and I'd used that one before, and that one failed on me as well. But again, that was probably one I got from Amazon as well. So I think if you're getting memory cards, I probably would be avoiding Amazon, and I would probably be getting them from a photo store like Wex, Warehouse Express, or one of these you know, companies that sells them. And I think that's probably a better, you might pay a little bit more, but I think that's probably a safer option. But yeah, so I will definitely be doing more cooking moving forward, because again, that's something that, you know, these bigger YouTubers, you know, channels that have only been going for like 5 minutes, but they've got like 20 million, you know, subscribers and 1,000 billion, you know, views. They seem to spend most of their time, you know, walking into camp and then cooking, and they're falling asleep, and then, you know, and then piddle-offing, you know, back to the car the next day. So, you know, yeah, I do think that I probably will do more cooking moving forward. I probably won't every single camp because, like I said, I'm still somewhat behind in editing. I'm sure I've still got a camp from November or something um, like that that I haven't edited yet. Certainly December. I've certainly got some from last year that I've not done yet. I tend to kind of like do the videos. So I tend to like prioritize as I'm going forward. So like with this trip, because it was like super windy and that's like topical, I thought, okay, I've just done this trip. Plus it was with a friend, and I was kind of like sort of thing where he'll probably want to watch it as well. Plus because of the wind, that was topical. Everyone's going to be looking for windy videos and things like that. So that's why I kind of, got this series of videos out, and I've nearly finished this trip's videos. I think the only thing I haven't done on this trip is I did a pitching video kind of on the Namo 3 GT, and I'll try and get that done soonish. And then I did a time lapse of collapsing everything down. But actually, that's only like a few seconds. It wasn't very much. It was a short time lapse. So I'll probably put that on at the end of the video of pitching the Namaj 3 GT at some point or other. And then I did do a video on the Fenix 7X as well. So I'm kind of just working on that one at the moment. So because I now got two channels, it's kind of like double, trying to get some content out on both of them. So I've nearly finished most of the stuff from this camp, but I probably won't finish it all for another week or so. And then I'll be camping again fairly soon. So I don't know whether I'll ever catch up with myself, to be honest. But anyway, then like I said, I'll just go back in time to about November because I camped in October for the Lake District, and I've definitely finished that video. And I'm very, very sure I've edited all the videos for September, but I'm sure there's something in November that I haven't done yet. Anyway, yeah, there's like a ton of content out there. I just haven't done it all yet. So there's plenty to watch and enjoy. So let's have a look. How are we doing on questions? Okay, okay? So let's just go back in time. I don't know if you're still there, Quentin, but let's go back in time. Were you camping or no? In 2004, it was in a bed and breakfast. Sue wasn't into camping, and I didn't really know, anything about it so much. So we had a bed and breakfast, and we stayed. Was it do you have bed and breakfast? Yeah, no, it wasn't a bed and breakfast. It was a cottage. We rented a cottage, so it was like a cottage for 2 weeks. So basically, you just drove, parks in front of the cottage, and then you just had access to the entire cottage. And it was a 2-floor cottage, so I think there was like a lounge downstairs, although we never used that because we weren't really in there so much. But there was like a lounge and a kitchen downstairs, and then I think there was two rooms upstairs. So I think we cooked quite a lot in it, and we ate in it and basically slept, and then we just we were out, enjoying ourselves. So it was a cottage. So let's have a look. Well, you are still here, so something must have worked. Yeah, trial and error. I think with me, trial and error. We've all done it. I walked what I thought was to a trig point, only to discover it was a horse. Of course, you've got to make sure that you don't sort of line up your compass with a sheep or something like that, and then follow the sheep around like that. That would be interesting, wouldn't that? Or point your compass um, at a cloud formation, as line up your north. Oh, that cloud up there. I walk towards that cloud as the cloud starts shifting. I remember I did do a few short walks with Sue in 2008, and we went up. I can't remember what it was called. It was it was up in Scotland, and it was one of the mountains that begins with L. Loch Nagar. Is it Loch? It begins with L, and you get up the top of it. I can't remember what it's called now, but you get up to the top of it, and we actually thought that we were at the top of it because again it was misty, so you couldn't actually see very much. So we got to top, and we thought that that was it, and then there was a tiny clearance in the mist, and then you looked over, sort of, I'll say north, but whatever direction it was, and like I don't know, 50 meters or 100 meters or something like that, not very far, you could actually see, the top of the actual mountain. So again, sometimes when you're climbing to the top of a mountain in the mist, you might think that you've reached the top of the mountain that you actually want, but you might not actually be at the top of the mountain that you want. You might be at the edge of it, and it could be you have to walk another 100 meters or something like that, to actually reach it, which is kind of what I did with the Coniston walk. Because like I said, we just walk. I don't know how we walked past it, but we just walked right past it. Greater dangers in Canada: beavers ride moose and look for trouble. Yeah, it could be Canada, America. I mean, I don't know how you camp over there with that food. I mean, you see all the videos here of Paul Messner and everyone else, frying up their food, and Tony Hobbs now starting to do some sausages and things like that. But of course, over in America, you couldn't do that in your tent because you'd wake up with a grizzly bear joining you or something like that, wouldn't you? So you'd have to be, a bit more careful, cook, you know, away from the tent, stick your stuff in a bag, pull it up a tree or something. It would kind of be interesting, wouldn't it? So Tony would like to see more cooking. So yeah, did you ever get any more of those amazing lamb dehydrated packs? I don't really use the dehydrated packs because they're quite expensive for what they are. But again, I probably ought to use them occasionally, and and name drop them into a video, and maybe camping on Dartmoor, because when you look on YouTube now, everybody's watching storm videos and things like that. It seems that everyone's most interested in raining videos and storm videos and that type of stuff, and and cooking videos. So I'm guessing if you cook something in a storm, you're probably going to get thousands and thousands of views. Because if you look at some of these people who are doing these YouTube videos, they've only been on the scene for like five minutes, and they've got like bloody thousands and thousands of views just for walking up a hill, cooking something in a storm, and then coming back down again. So it clearly seems very, very popular. And those meals, probably everybody, like not everybody, but quite a few people probably use those meals. So again, it probably would be worth my while getting some, and then in the title, because it might just, I reckon it must attract some, it must attract some attention if you put sea to summit, or sea to eat, or the summit to eat, whatever it's called, meal, or I camped, such and such, wherever. Oh, and I had this meal, put that in the title, that might get some attention, as well. Just add some rain over your thumbnails. I need to somehow, yes, I think that's actually a good idea. And I tried to do that. I need to figure out how you do it, because I don't know how you do it properly, because it's something to do with layers and things like that. Now, if you look at my video, I think it was the first trip to the Lake District, as in October, and it's the one where I think, and I never really even think about thumbnails until I'm back home. I would try and maybe take either a video like that and line something up so I can think, oh, that might make a good thumbnail, or take a video and then something, I would never really think about thumbnails until I'm back home. So that one video in the Lake District in October, and you got like me in the foreground, and then I just about managed to get the trail star like in the background, but it was like only just, it was just pure luck that it worked out like that. And I tried, and then if you look at the thumbnail on it, you can see that I've put some some like Tony effort into doing some rain on the front, but it looks more like bees all over the place than rain. But you can do it on Photoshop. I just haven't quite figured out how you do it properly. So again, that probably is something, to try and figure that out, maybe concentrate when I get time on it. Thumbnails are very important on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I'm trying. I'm trying. I am trying. Very, very trying. I know I'm very trying. I know I'm very trying. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to improve thumbnails where I can. I put more effort in. Probably not as much effort as some of these people. Again, I think some people probably put like a lot more time and effort. I try to do them as quickly as I possibly can. I'm a lazy bastard, really, to be honest. But I do the best that I can as quickly and efficiently as I can. And so, finding something that looks nice, obviously save it as a JPEG, open it up in Photoshop, stick some writing on it, and then that's about that's about as good as you're gonna get with me. To be honest, I haven't really got the time or the patience to be. I thought you were talking about thumbnails on fingers. Um, Death on Dartmoor. Yeah, probably if you had a video with Death on Dartmoor, that would probably get some attention. Interesting. If anyone's watching this, drop a comment below. And you can. Last year, May, it was the time when I did a video on some watches, and I did some other videos as well. I will have the footage somewhere. It was quite sad actually. So I haven't uploaded it because it doesn't really seem quite the right thing to do. But there was a lamb, but the poor lamb was deceased um, in the brook, and I didn't really want this lamb, you know, messing up my drinking water. So I actually, took the lamb out and then, carried it. It couldn't have been very old, to be honest, and carried it, some little distance away from the water and, deposited it down. Luckily, I saw the farmer the next day and I told him I didn't record that bit, but I did record taking the lamb out of the water. He hadn't been in there very long, so it was all intact. There's no gore or blood or anything like that. But I've never uploaded it. I kind of sort of skirted away from doing that. But just curious as to what people think, as to whether that's something that's literally as a one-off short video type of thing, whether that's worth putting up or not, because that kind of is the other side of Dartmoor and camping and being outside. There is death out there. So I kind of cooked it. I should have done. Could have cut it up into little pieces and then had lamb casserole or something like that. Oh, poor thing. So I'm kind of curious as to what people think. I know on that one. I've never really sort of mentioned it, but I have got the footage somewhere. So I don't know. I haven't decided. And I don't know whether if I did it, put it, uploaded it, whether just to go straight into it or like just do some talking for like 30 seconds before and say, look, this is going to be a disturbing video. Some of you may not want to watch this. Skirt this video and then go into it. So I don't know, because there's loads of death on YouTube. You've got things, chasing other things and crocodiles being eaten by pythons and, other things like that. So, I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. Maybe if I run out of footage, then I might I might put it up at that point when I've actually got time to put something. It's not exactly a priority. Put Lassie as a thumbnail. Yeah, that would be I should actually probably should take another picture, take some pictures of her in front of something. So I'll try and remember. Like I said, I'm thinking of taking the Acto on the next camp. So if I do that, I'll try and remember and sort of get a picture of Lassie in front of it or something like that. So I think we've caught up. So we've been talking about an hour, nearly an hour and a half. So I'm going to have to get going in a minute. This has actually worked out really well because I've still got plenty more I can talk about that trip going back in time. Plus, thankfully, we've had some interesting questions and comments and things like that. So I think I've answered every single thing there. So like I said, I will be using the Acto next, and I will do a video, obviously, on that. And I'll try and do some video of it that I can edit into the video that I've already done on the Sulu, because I know some people will probably be interested in that. So even though the Sulu won't be with me, there must be some way of piecing bits together from a previous video. So I'll try that. I'll definitely do more cooking videos. I won't do it every camp, because I just think for me it's going to be too much editing, and I still can't keep up with what I'm doing anyway. But I definitely will be doing more cooking video, more cooking, in the future, and that probably is a bit of a priority, really, because, like I say, clearly it's popular. Loads of people are watching cooking video. Quinton, you've mentioned it here that you want to see more cooking, and several other people have said that it's a popular thing. You ought to do it more to attract more attention. So yeah, I definitely, that's kind of like a sub priority to concentrate on cooking something. So I think I'll try and get that video edited sometime in the next week or two, where I did those. Like I said, literally I've got the jet boil, the frying pan with the jet boil. I've got that new knife that I've got, that Mora knife. And like I said, I'm cooking it on the jet boil, frying pan, jet boil thing. And I've put the sausages on there, and I put the bacon on there, and I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. And then I just chuck the baked beans on as well, and then heated them up. Good to hear you live. Keep up the good work. Keep safe and happy. Well, thank you very much, Quinton, because you and some of you, some of the other ones as well, have been following me for quite a long time. I think you're one of the earlier ones from what I remember. So yes, it's a pleasure. Attach a camera to Lassie and make sure it's waterproof. I got a collar somewhere, and there is a video. Go back in time. Maybe go back. Hang on a minute. Let me see if I can. You're going to have to go back quite a while. Just bear with me just 1 second. But there is a video up here with Lassie, and it's probably, and it is literally just, I can't see the camera now. I'm just looking. It's probably going back. If I just see if I can find it, because Organized Chaos asked this question, and I don't know how long you've been following me, so I don't know. Wow, we're going back quite a way now. It's amazing how many videos I've done. I've got over, and of course I did another frying sausages camping video August 2020. I don't know, but there is a video. If you go back in time, you might have to go back 3 odd years, and it's quite possible I've even gone past it, because I didn't think it was that long ago. I've gone back to 2019 on the video, and I have to say I don't think it was that long ago. I'm sure it was more recent than that, and that there is a video. It's not very long. It's not very long. It's um, like a minute or 2 minutes, and it is literally lassie cam footage, and it's actually quite good. Like most of my videos, it didn't get very many views. People just looked right past it and didn't really even bother looking at it. If I would be good if I could find it though, but it's definitely on here somewhere. You might just have to have a bit of a nose going back a couple of years or something. I can't see it myself. Just trying to look a bit more closely, see if I can. I can't see it. I mean, we're now up to the end of last year. Oh, that's annoying. I can't see it. I don't know. I can't find it now. But it is on there. There is. If I find it, I'll put it in the community section, the date of it. But there definitely was. Maybe it's even longer ago that I'm realizing. But there was some footage where Lassie had the GoPro camera. I think actually it was even the GoPro Hero 5 that she had on her. I can't see it. Oh, is there a so even if I do a search, nothing comes up. Just search. Actually, I think it's this one. Here it is. Okay, I can give you a date then if you're still around. Oh, it's 23 seconds, so it's a very, very short one. What's the date? Whew, where's the date? It's called Lassie. It's called Lassie Short. It's literally that's the title. It's called Lassie Short. Um, Let me change the title. Lassie video camera GoPro. I think it was even the GoPro Hero 5. And then I put collar. So search Lassie video camera GoPro Hero collar. Something like that. Try that. I can't find that's stupid. I can't find the date. I'll put it in the community section as well if I remember. Okay, I've copied that. Create, post. Hang on, I can put it in the community section right now. Sorry, I'm not. It's just if I don't do it now, I'll forget. Like I said, it's literally 23 seconds. Oh, that's stupid, isn't it? Didn't even record it. Oh no, it did go. I'm going stupid. Okay, all right. It's in the community section. So if you go to the community section, it was uploaded a year ago. So obviously I went right past it. It's only got 130 views, but it's 23 seconds. It's in the community section. Good to hear you. Organized the camera. So defo waterproof about a year. I found it. You found it as well. Okay, good. Have you ever been to the Isle of Skye and are midges a problem around your area? Lassie fangs boy down a well. How about having a company as before? How about having a company with you as before? What you mean, like what, like camping with someone else. Yeah, I kind of like doing that a bit more now. I mean, obviously last year I camped with um, Dave in August, and then Richard joined me, who's quite high up on the Dartmoor thing. He joined me for one night in September. And then obviously this trip I camped with someone. I generally, I must admit, I prefer camping by myself. Just generally, it's just I just like to be able to relax, and that's just easier for me. But I have enjoyed sharing camps. So yeah, I have enjoyed it. It's been good. I have enjoyed it. So hopefully I will do more. I will do more camps, shared camps in the future. How about having a company? Girls, yeah, yeah, I wouldn't mind a few girls. If you find some girls, they can join me. I wouldn't mind that. I can't guarantee I'd be good, but um, how about having a company? So as in company, as in friends, I'm assuming you mean, yeah. So as I said, that's something that I would enjoy doing again. If someone wants to camp with me, reach out, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Like I said, mostly I just enjoy it by myself, but I have enjoyed the company, and it would be nice to share a camp again, in the future if it's like, spread out. I don't want every camp shared. I don't want that. I wouldn't do that. And I probably wouldn't even do it every month. I want most of them to be, quite happy by myself, but I definitely would want to share more in the future. It was enjoyable. So yeah, I definitely would do more shared camps in the future. Um, okay, so we've found Lassie video. Yeah, maybe I'll try and find the collar because I got it upstairs somewhere. I could maybe try and do some more of that. Okay, I better scoot. It's been over an hour and a half now. I better get on and do a few things here. So I'm going to disappear. I will catch you. Thank you for joining me, all five of you, and then the others as well. It's been very, very enjoyable. You've kept me going. I've got some other stuff that I can talk about, in the future of previous trips and things like that I can get things going. And then, there's enough questions and things like that to keep us going for a while. So that's good. I've really enjoyed it. And Quinton and everyone else, Quinton's obviously put the most, but organized chaos as well. Um, uh, Tamas, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce your names very well. Pally, thank you. I've never been to the Isle of Skye. Oh, I didn't answer that question, did I? Um, Yes, I went to the Isle of Skye, but it was when I was 17 years old and I wasn't even doing walking. And it was at the time, it was 1990, and it was supposed to be, just super quick, I was supposed to have gone to Tunisia, and it was the year that, friendly Saddam decided to pop over and say, have a cup of tea with Kuwait. So we didn't go to Tunisia, and we changed the holiday to Spain with Intersun, and then Intersun decided to go bust, so we ended up going up to Scotland, and then with that was with a mum. This is like years ago. This is like obviously 1990 now. So part of that trip was a few days on the Isle of Skye, but that's as much as I've done in the Isle of Skye. Midges, not. You get some midges, not well. We don't get midges. Midges are up in Scotland. Scotland have those man-eating midgy things up there. Where we are down on Dartmoor, you tend to get more little teeny weeny little flying things that just fly around your head. They're a bit of a. They will bite. You can come home and find little pecks. They're not like midges, but they're a bit annoying. So in the summer, you still do have to have an inner or to duck inside or burn, like a repellent thing just to try and keep them away from you. They're a bit they're more annoying than anything else. So if you watch my video where I'm in the bivvy video, which I think I did. The camp was August, but I don't think I uploaded it probably until September or something like that. But if you watch that bivvy video, setting up the bivvy and just the night in the bivvy, in part of that video, you can actually see them buzzing around my buzzing around my head. We have a lot of them in Sweden. I can imagine that, in the summer months, they probably come out of the woodwork, as it were. So, yeah, so they're not really a problem, and that's answered that one. All right, I'm gonna have to shoot off. Hopefully, Tamas and some of the others who've joined us later on will catch you, another time. And thank you very, very much for your time and patience and support of watching this live stream and watching the videos and everything else like that. It really is appreciated. And thank you very much. And I will see you all again, very, very soon in a video. And then we'll try and do another live stream in the not too distant future. I'll try not to wait quite so long for the next one. I'm going to just say thank you very much. And I will see you again soon. Thank you.